Hey guys, it's Lilith. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about desired realities from my previous DRs list that I have retired and why I have retired them. If you've noticed that I'm wearing the exact same outfit that I was wearing in my last video, please be super nice to me. I'm filming back to back. And if you did not see my last video, please go watch it. You can find it in my reality shifting playlist that's in the description, where I talk about the fact that I just got a shifting symbol tattoo, what I know about the shifting symbol, where it came from anyway, and what it means to me and why I decided to mark my body permanently with shifting. But without further ado, let's get into this. Your girl has a lot of DRs, okay? So don't think that I have none left after retiring a bunch. Ones I have that are like completely active, my Hogwarts DR, my Marvel DR, my Salem DR, which is basically my Agatha All Along DR but with no magic, my Stranger Things DR, my Peaky Blinders DR, my Our Flag Means Death DR. I have a private DR with Carly that we don't talk about publicly. I'm currently working on a sneaky new little DR that's not done yet. But if you watch the new episode of the Batshit Crazy podcast, which should have just come out by the time this comes out, I do show you a little sneak peek of the script in case you want to guess what it is. My Twilight DR, technically my Hotel DR. I have a Beauty and the Beast DR. I have a DR that we're just going to refer to as like my secret DR or my private DR that like I'm not going to talk to anybody on the internet about. It's like my personal thing. Carly and I have a new DR we're just calling her Freak Nasty DR. It's also not getting leaked to the internet. Technically I have a Bridgerton DR, but I haven't touched it in a really long time. I'm eventually going to be paralleling Carly's Forbidden DR. I am more than likely currently putting together a possible Once Upon a Time DR. That's a little up in the air, but still. I know that I'm probably forgetting a few, and I know that Carly is watching this and she's probably yelling through the screen that I am forgetting a few, but I'm really bad at remembering all of them off the top of my head. So off the top of my head right there is 16. But there used to be a lot more, and there are several DRs that I have retired. Some of them I've mentioned on this channel, some I've mentioned on the podcast, some I've mentioned on TikTok, and some you guys don't even know about. So I'm gonna go through a list and tell you about the ones that I've retired. There are 18. And I am sorry to those of you that have been asking for videos of like DR lore drops for some of these. I know that I've done a DR lore drop on my Twilight DR, my Salem DR, my MCU DR. I don't think I've done one on my Hogwarts DR. I know I did one where like I was going through my script, but I haven't done like an actual lore drop. If you guys want to see a lore drop of my Hogwarts DR, please let me know. And I think I did technically what is a Hogwarts, not a Hogwarts, what is a Hotel DR, because there's no like lore drop on that one. It's just like a what it is. So if you guys would like to hear a lore drop on my Hogwarts DR, let me know. But so there's these 18 that you will not get a lore drop on because I'm not going to finish them. But what is on this list, I will kind of do a mini version of a lore drop if I knew anything about these DRs, because some of these DRs were formed enough to have a backstory. And what these are going to be is I'm not just going to say, I got rid of A, B, C, and D. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take you through the list. I'm going to tell you the DRs that I got rid of. I'm going to tell you what, if anything, was formed about this DR, and then why I decided to get rid of it, and why I'm no longer shifting there, and if I think there's ever a possibility of me going back to that. Because most DRs, I will never say that there's no chance of me going back to it, because I did actually 86 a Once Upon a Time DR. I had one for like the first year of my shifting journey, and then I got rid of it for mental health reasons because I used to be in the fandom and it was extremely toxic. But now that I'm 30, I'm rewatching the show and I've decided having a DR there, even if it's only for a brief period of time, would be really good for healing my inner teen. So for all I know, some of these DRs could come back. But for right now, they are retired and in a box. And the first one that we are going to address, and I know somebody's going to be really sad because I've had at least 2 people in the last year ask for a lore drop on this, I have decided to get rid of my House of the Dragon DR. Now, what was already formed of my House of the Dragon DR has changed repeatedly. I originally made my script for my House of the Dragon DR when the first season came out. I was very, very obsessed with the show. I liked it a lot. I used to be a big fan of Game of Thrones. And I became obsessed with House of the Dragon, specifically Daemon Targaryen. And I made a version roughly of my script when only the first few episodes were out, before they changed a bunch of the younger actors to older actors. And I had to change my shit. So what I originally had was that I was supposed to be Alicent's sister, because when she was like in the first few episodes, when her dad was like putting her up to getting with the king and stuff, I felt really bad for her. And I really liked the idea of being able to steer her away from that, keeping her from becoming a bitch like she did in the last episode of when the teenager character was there. And to keep the fight between her and Rhaenyra from happening, to keep the queen alive so that Alicent wasn't having to marry a grown man as a teenager. Oh my god, I just touched my tattoo. Sorry, I have like an A&D ointment on my tattoos right now. It's why they look kind of shiny. And I just kind of like was aware that something was not dry on my arm, and I tried to go like this. Thank god it's not in the scabbing phase yet, and that didn't hurt, but still, that was the first time I've done that since I got this yesterday. But I was really in this place of like, I wanted to age Alicent and Rhaenyra up a little bit so that they were like 18 instead of being like 14 or 15 or however they were in the first episode, and then make myself Alicent's older sister, and that way I could like protect her from her father and keep her from having to basically be a child bride and like be friends with both girls and stuff like that. And like I wanted to ride a dragon, you know? And that ended up changing when the actor swap happened, because even though I don't like Alicent Hightower as a character, I am not Team Green, I'm Team Black. I really prefer like the Rhaenyra Daemon side of the war between Black versus Green. And I felt weird having Alicent as a sister, because the actress that they had playing adult Alicent is an actress that I find very attractive. And even though in my DR she would never look like the adult actress of Alicent kind of thing, that she would just look like the actor who played the teenage version, and she would never grow into looking like second Alicent, it still made me feel weird that I was attracted to one of the actors who played that character. So I decided to completely retire that idea and was like, nope, I'm not going to be related to this person. It feels really weird. I don't want to do that. And so I thought I was still going to find a way to be part of House of the Dragon, but didn't know how. And I kept kind of thinking of the idea that, oh, maybe I'll just be like a random person from another house. But eventually, spoilers for House of the Dragon, by the way, specifically the end of the first season, when the scene happened where Daemon choked Rhaenyra, I, as someone who was like, Daemon's my favorite character, I was like, nope, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to shift for a guy that chokes his wife. You know, I'm not going to do that. And I couldn't handle that. It really kind of fucked me up and made me look at the show a little bit differently. And so I actually retired it the first time. And then last year, I had attempted to get back into the show when season 2 was coming around, because I had really, really liked season 1. But I felt like season 1 had been really rushed. And then season 2 was kind of insane. And I think I kind of forced myself to get back into House of the Dragon, because I was like, oh, I missed when I had a House of the Dragon DR. And then it just never really hit right. I never really felt connected to it. And when I started making the script, it didn't feel right. I wasn't excited. It didn't really feel like me anymore. And I just decided to 86 it recently, because I had the DR for a long time, but I never wanted to go to it. I never felt connected to it. I didn't really like what was going on with it. And I didn't like where the show had gone. And I felt like I was going to have to like strip it down to the bare bones to make it something I even wanted to shift to. And I was going to have to change the personalities of like so many characters from the show to even make them likable in my DR. And it just felt like it was going to be too much and too exhausting. So it just felt not worth it. And I recently decided to get rid of it for that reason. Following up House of the Dragon, the second on the list is Game of Thrones. I had a Game of Thrones DR, but there was no real backstory to it. And I think the only thing I really figured out was that I was going to be in like a reverse harem with a bunch of different characters. I think it was Brienne of Tarth, Tyrion Lannister, and Jorah Mormont. And that was as far as I got. Didn't know who I was, where I lived, who my family was, what I was up to, anything like that. My reason for wanting to not go there is kind of similar-ish to my reason for not wanting to go to House of the Dragon, because I didn't really feel connected to it at all, kind of like with House of the Dragon, but also on top of that, I just kind of really realized that wanting to be in all these different places with all these different people really was going to stretch me thin and wasn't going to make any sense, and I felt like there was so much drama and bullshit that it was going to be even harder to figure out how to get rid of the drama and bullshit in Game of Thrones than it would be to get rid of it in House of the Dragon. So it just felt too complicated and complex, and it did not feel worth it to be dealing with it. I'm gonna lump those two in together when it comes to answering, like, would I possibly reignite that script / scripts because they're in the same world. Even though I want to say, like, never say never, I kind of think no. I think that both worlds are too toxic and dangerous and complex for me. I think that I would have to change too much about them for it to be a place that I would feel fully comfortable in. I don't judge anybody that shifts to Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. I have mutuals that shift to them. And it's completely okay if you want to do that. And I know that I am capable of, like, shifting to versions of these worlds that aren't dramatic and intense. But I feel like the idea of how much could go wrong would make me so anxious that it just, like, doesn't feel like something I can do. Next on my list is Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, I have gotten rid of this one twice as well. I originally brought it on because I really wanted to have a pirate DR. And then I got rid of it when I got my Our Flag Means Death script in place because I felt more emotionally attached. Now, in Pirates of the Caribbean, my love interest was going to be James Norrington, and I was going to be Elizabeth Swann's sister, and that's about all I had. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything about what from the plot I was keeping and anything like that. I felt like I just liked the idea of having a pirate DR. I felt like the aesthetic would be fun, and I felt like it would be a vibe. But it really became a thing where I couldn't attach to anything because I didn't feel emotionally invested in the characters. Like, I like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but I didn't feel emotionally invested in any of the people. And because I didn't feel attached to the fictional character version of them, I didn't feel attached to the real person version of them in my DR. And so it stayed on the back burner for a long time, and it was more of like an idea. And then when I actually put my Our Flag Means Death DR in place and could have a pirate DR where I did actually feel connected to people, and I had kind of like a found family, because the main trope of that show is found family, and so I had a found family and friends and a love interest I actually felt attached to, and a guy who was like my, you know, I have like a almost like surrogate brother in that DR. I have a love interest I actually feel connected to in that DR. I have a found family in that DR, as opposed to I'm just going to say on paper that I'm related to this person and dating this person with Pirates of the Caribbean. So I decided to 86 it, and then there was a brief period of time, like 4 months ago, something like that, where I briefly thought about bringing back Pirates of the Caribbean because I watched some of the movies. And I thought about what would it be like if I just, you know, shifted there for funsies, but it still didn't have really any emotional resonance with me. As far as if that would ever come back, that one's a maybe. If I suddenly create like a really deep emotional resonance with that DR and with those people, yeah, I could, because I think it would be interesting, could be fun, but I don't really see it happening. It's probably a very low on the totem pole possibility, just because my Our Flag Means Death DR really gives me a lot of things that DR did not. Next on my list is Lord of the Rings. This feels almost weird to put on this list because I just now got rid of it. I got rid of it at the same time that I got rid of House of the Dragon, but I've gotten rid of House of the Dragon before. This is my first time getting rid of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings? Lord of the Rings. What is my hair doing? What is happening with it? It's my first time getting rid of Lord of the Rings, and it feels really weird still. But my main reason for Lord of the Rings being gotten rid of is because I don't want to lose the franchise. That's pretty much it. I didn't know a lot about what I was going to do in that DR for a long time. I just kind of knew I was going to be with Boromir because he's my favorite character. Somewhere along the way, I kind of made the decision to be Aragorn's sister, and I was going to end up being part of the Fellowship. But that's pretty much all I had. I didn't have anything else about me. Just knew my love interest and my brother. That was pretty much it. And I eventually decided I didn't want to lose the media, because I am one of those people that I already have a hard time watching certain media that I'm shifting to. Like, I have a really hard time watching the Harry Potter movies now. It's going to be even way worse when I fully grounded shift. I have a really hard time watching Marvel movies, especially ones that have Tony in them. I have kind of like a not even necessarily like a semi hard time watching Peaky Blinders, but I feel uncomfortable watching Peaky Blinders. And I feel a little weird watching Stranger Things. But, like, I can still watch, like, Our Flag Means Death just fine. And I can still watch certain media that people from my hotel DR are in just fine. I can watch certain parts of Agatha All Along just fine. I can still watch Bridgerton just fine. I've been watching Twilight recently. I can watch Twilight just fine. But Lord of the Rings is a piece of media that I've loved my whole life. And that is something that, like, my whole family loves. I even have a replica of Sting back there. Don't know if you can see it. But I didn't really love the idea of never being able to watch Lord of the Rings again, especially since I've already had to give up the idea of ever being able to watch and normally enjoy Harry Potter ever again when it's my favorite series, of ever watching Marvel again when it's been such a comfort series to me in my adulthood, of ever watching Twilight correctly, of ever watching Beauty and the Beast correctly, like, stuff like that. And I wanted a series that wasn't gonna get touched by shifting and make me feel weird. And maybe there is a possibility that, like, way, way far in the future, I might change my mind about that, but I think it'll be after I've shifted to a lot of different places. And if I did, it would probably only be just, like, briefly to experience the world. I don't see me shifting there to have an entire life like I would in other DRs. I think it would be more of like an experience shift than anything else. But it seems like a very low possibility for me. Which leads into my next one, which is The Hobbit, for the same reason. The only thing I knew about myself from that DR was that I was going to go for Bard the Bowman. And that was pretty much it. And I'm getting rid of it for the same reason of, like, I want to be able to watch all of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies together without feeling like that's getting taken from me. I feel like maybe one day I will do all of that. I think I am more likely to shift to The Hobbit than I am Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings has been in my life longer than The Hobbit has. I had to move the camera because my butt's falling asleep in this chair. The next one on my list is Wednesday, like the Netflix Wednesday TV show. I liked the first season a lot, but I really was only shifting for the idea of being able to date Larissa Weems because Gwendolyn Christie is so gorgeous. And I was shifting for the idea of having a university DR that was like gothy and alternative and weird, because I made it, instead of being like almost like a high school setting, I moved it into being like Nevermore College, like it was a university DR, kind of like how some people do with Hogwarts. And I made up a whole list of classes that I thought were really fun. I took inspiration from some people on TikTok, and I still have that list somewhere. Some of it was like occult studies and magic 101, but then there was also like, a film studies specifically for movies about the occult and horror movies and goth culture films, different stuff like that. And I thought it was just like a really fun DR for that reason, but then I kind of just like lost interest in it along the way because I realized I didn't really like anybody else in the show except for Larissa. This is no hate on anybody who likes the Wednesday TV show, but like I was scripting myself in as like being friends with like Wednesday and Enid, or is that the roommate's name? Enid. And then I realized like the people I was scripting as my friends are like people I like don't actually care about, and like didn't really care too much about their characters, and like didn't really want to be friends with them. And it just like kind of stopped being fun, and I stopped really caring about it, to the point that even when season 2 came out, I didn't watch it, and I still haven't seen it. So I was just like, you know what? I don't care about this DR. I don't even feel connected to that person. Like if I really want to put Larissa in my hotel DR, maybe I can, but it just didn't sound like a fun time to me anymore. I think if I ever do decide to shift there, I think I would probably heavily modify it. So it's still a maybe, but I think instead of it being like specifically like a Wednesday DR, it would be more of like a Nevermore University. So I would probably just take like the idea of like a Gothic university in modern day with all of the classes that I had made up, because I still have that list somewhere. I would take the idea of that university and all of those classes and like plop it into another world with a different love interest and a different set of friends, just because the classes would be incredible to take and sounded so fun and would be like a form of education I would actually be interested in. But I don't think I'd ever shift to the version I was gonna have. I had no idea who I was or what I was up to. Literally the only thing that I knew was that I was supposed to be friends with the main characters and then dating Larissa. That was it. Next on the list is Fable 3, like the video game from the Fable franchise. And I didn't know a damn thing about myself. I didn't know anything. I just was, I think, supposed to be the replacement for the main character that you play as. And the reason that I decided to 86 this DR is just because it's my favorite video game of all time. And I wanted to be able to play it without that being interrupted. So it's very similar to the Lord of the Rings of it all. And I just wanted to be able to keep playing the video game, because even though I play different stuff now and I haven't played Fable in like well over a year, I go back to it every few years, or like sometimes once a year. I actually really want to play it soon. Because even though I love playing like Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age and stuff like that, like there is an itch only Fable 3 can scratch. So I don't think I'll ever get back my Fable 3 script, because that's a video game I want to be playing on and off my whole life. I really need them to release Fable 4. It was supposed to release this year and then they pushed it to next year, and I'm really upset about it. Next up on the list is Doctor Who. I did not know a single thing about myself in this DR. I had not a clue who I was. I switched between doctors for a while. I did eventually settle on the 10th Doctor, because when I had an injury back in January and I was bound to the couch, I started a Doctor Who rewatch. And 10 was always my favorite, even though I did really love the era of 11. And I really loved the dynamic of like Matt's Doctor with like Amy and Rory and River. I loved that dynamic, like that really amazing family dynamic between them. But if I was picking just the Doctor, David was my favorite. But also like 10 and Donna was an iconic ass duo. And I'm pretty sure that when I was gonna go during the Dr. Donna era. I decided to retire this one partially because I feel like my plate was so full with all of my other DRs, but also because I wanted to be able to keep enjoying the media. That seems to be a common theme with me. I love Doctor Who. I've been watching Doctor Who for, oh Jesus, like almost 20 years. I think the first time I ever watched Doctor Who was like 13 years ago. No, I said that wrong. I was 13. So the first time I watched it was like 17 years ago. I think that's the right math. Correct me if I'm wrong. I may have been 14. I don't know. But the first ever episode that I watched was Silence in the Library, which is why I attached so heavily to River Song and to Donna Noble. And I used to watch it with my mom religiously, and it became a thing that like most of my family started watching it. Like my brother and sister would sit down and watch the show with us, and my aunt would come over, and my cousins would come and watch the show, and my grandma even watched it sometimes, like everybody but my dad. And we would all sit down and watch the show, and I was so obsessed with it as a teenager. I had a life-size cutout of a TARDIS in my bedroom. I had a big poster on my wall that was like 11 things the Doctor has taught me, and it was a big picture of Matt Smith. I had a Doctor Who lamp that had 11 Amy and Rory on the actual lampshade. I had a TARDIS pillow and a little like squishy of an adipose fat baby. I had a big cookie jar that was shaped like the TARDIS, that every time you opened it, it made the TARDIS sound. And I used to keep little collectible Doctor Who figurines in it. And I also used to keep my sonic screwdriver replicas in there. And I have a couple of boxes somewhere that are TARDIS shaped boxes that hold Doctor Who trading cards that actually have trading cards in them. And I had a bunch of t-shirts, and I used to celebrate Impossible Astronaut Day every year. Like, I was that bitch. And I loved it. I loved that show so much. And the idea of being able to like travel the universe with the Doctor is something I would have absolutely done when I was a kid, and absolutely something I would have done in my early 20s. And that's kind of the reason that I decided not to, is so that I can keep experiencing the show in the beautiful way that I do. But I do think that this is one that I will probably pick back up when I'm older. And I'm pretty sure of it. I just think I don't see it happening in like the next 10 years or so. So I'm not gonna expect anyone to not judge me about this, and I promise at least one person in the comments is gonna bring this up. There was a brief period of time that I thought it would be super fucking funny to shift to the book Credence by Penelope Douglas. Hold on, let me explain myself. I was not gonna be Tiernan's character, okay? I was not gonna have the very fucked up dynamic that Tiernan has with Jake and Noah and Caleb. That was not gonna be a thing. I loved the idea of like a DR that was set in like basically like perpetual winter mountains and like isolated from the world. I really wanted Credence of it all. There was going to be no Tiernan, there was going to be no Noah, no Caleb, just Jake. And I was just going to be, you know, his girlfriend living with him in the mountains, away from people, just like living a very quiet, sexy life in the mountains. And that was what I was going to do. And there's multiple reasons I decided to get rid of this. One, because I don't want to have to explain to people that I'm shifting to a Penelope Douglas book, because that makes me sound fucking insane. And reason number two, I just kind of feel like I would end up scarred. Like, I don't know how, considering I would be scripting out like the Caleb and the Noah of it all, but Jake wasn't exactly like a healthy ass person. So I feel like if I want to have like a book boyfriend, I gotta find one who's not from a Penelope Douglas book. So no, there's no possibility of bringing that one back. My next one is True Blood. I was going for the drama. I think I was gonna make myself sisters with Sookie, and I was gonna have the same mind reading powers as her. I think I put myself in a, not even a love triangle, like a love square. Like I kind of took Sookie's love triangle with Eric and Bill, and I also added in Pam because I thought Pam was hot, and that's all I knew. That was as far as it went. I think maybe I was also a waitress at Merlotte's, but I have no idea. And that was a DR I came up with long after I watched the show. Never even finished the show, mind you. But then my sister and I tried to rewatch the show recently, and I forgot that it's kind of cringe. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I've seen worse. But there is some stuff in that show that is kind of cringe as shit. And I was like, there's no fucking way I can do that. So I did pull it because I can't even watch the show because it's so cringy, like it hurts me. I think if there ever were, I'm not saying it's impossible to bring it back, but I would have to find a way to not be so uncomfortable watching the show. Next one was Vampire Academy. This was my favorite book series when I was a teenager. I don't know a damn thing about who I was or what I was doing in this DR. I had absolutely no plan for it, and then I decided to kick it partially because I felt like it didn't really align with who I was as an adult, and I was really only going to be shifting there because it's what 14-year-old me would have done, but also because I can't actually remember anything about the series as an adult. So I would have to read the entire 6-book series as an adult, and in a weird way, I kind of am almost worried about reading it as an adult, which is why I haven't done a reread yet, because I enjoyed the series so much as a teenager that I'm worried about sullying the memory of it if I go back and read it and then find out it does not hit right as a 30-year-old woman. So I'm kind of worried about rereading it, which is why I also decided to get rid of the DR. I'm not saying it's completely impossible for me to ever want to shift there. Maybe I'll reread the books one day and then decide I want to do the same thing that I did with Once Upon a Time, and that I want to heal my inner teen. So it's not a no, it's a not right now, I guess. The TVD universe. I got rid of this because I realized that the only people I actually liked from the shows were my love interests. And I was one of those typical goyles. I was one of them goyles who was stuck between Damon and Elijah and Klaus. I was not a Stefan girl. I will never be a Stefan girl. And then I realized I wasn't really very fond of anybody else in the show. I don't like Elena. I don't like Caroline. I don't like Bonnie. I don't like Jeremy. I don't like Tyler. Like, I'm not really a fan of pretty much anybody else in the fucking show. Sometimes I like Rebecca, but sometimes I really don't. Sometimes I like Haley. Sometimes I really don't. Most of the time I don't like Marcel. I don't remember ever liking Davina. I know I didn't like Cole. You know, characters, by the way, I am including both Vampire Diaries and the originals in this. But like really the only characters that I enjoyed were Damon and Elijah and Klaus. And so I realized it would kind of suck to be in a universe where like my 3 possible love interests were the only people that I actually liked. I did not like anyone else who could have possibly been my friend. And maybe it is because I do associate the show really heavily with like the rest of these people being teenagers, you know? Because Damon, oh god, when was Damon turned? He was in his 20s, like somewhere in his early 20s. But like I really associate everybody else with like being like a high school student, so they all just seemed like really immature, and I just don't really like them. I just don't. If you're gonna eat me alive in the comments for that, that's fine. But I just realized I would have a really horrible time living in Mystic Falls because I didn't like any of the people there. And so it seemed like it was really boring. So I'm pretty sure I plopped all those guys somewhere into my hotel. I don't really use the Hotel DR, to be so honest with you, though. It's just kind of there. But I think if I ever get an itch, I'll do that. I don't think it's an absolute no for me when it comes to if I would ever bring that DR back. I think I would have to be in a very, very special mindset, and it would probably be more of an originals setting than a Vampire Diaries setting, just because it isn't very teeny. I feel like that show felt a lot more adult than the first show, so I feel like that's probably where I would go if I did change that. This one's another one that I changed from a high school into a university. My favorite anime is Ouran High School Host Club. I didn't know anything about me except for the fact that I was also going to be in the host club. It wasn't going to be like with Haruhi, where everybody thinks Haruhi is a boy. Like, they were going to know that I was a girl. And that was really all that I knew. I really only had that. Why is my camera so far over? I really only had it that way. I really only had the script, honestly, because I was like, oh, it's my favorite show. Why wouldn't I want to shift there? You guys are crooked. What the hell? I was like, oh, it's my favorite anime. Why wouldn't I want to shift there? My dresser's literally poking me in the back. But I never really felt the urge to go there. And that was really, really early on in my journey. Like, I think like maybe the first year or two. And then eventually I was like, it's your favorite anime. It's a comfort show you've been watching since you were a teenager. Do you really want to lose that? And so I decided, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I got rid of it because I still watch the show 1 to 2 times a year, because it is the first anime I ever watched all the way through with my sister, and it holds a very special place in my heart, and I love it, and I watch it often because it makes me think of a much more simple time, and it makes me feel very comforted, and it never gets old for me. So I decided not shift there so that I don't lose the media. I highly doubt I will ever change that. There was another anime on my list. It was Kami-sama Kiss. I have seen this show all the way through 1 time, and it was right after watching it that I decided I was going to shift there. And then I decided to not do that anymore because it occurred to me a while later I didn't remember the details of the show at all. I realized that I was shifting for a character whose name I didn't remember, that I didn't really remember a whole lot of the plot, and that also I never actually got to watch the for real ending of the show. I watched both seasons that were on Hulu, and I never got to watch the OVA because I couldn't find it anywhere. So I've never seen like the very, very last episode of the show, and I've never read the mangas. I do want to read the manga though. And so I decided to 86 it because I realized, hey, I don't remember anything. I don't know what I'm doing. So I got rid of it, and I highly doubt I'll ever bring it back because I didn't really care that much. A DR that came and went extremely recently is Sense and Sensibility. In the last couple of months, I made Carly watch it with me for Best Friend Movie Night, and we were gonna have a DR specifically based on the version of Sense and Sensibility that has Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet in it. And I love Colonel Brandon. Anybody who watches this channel knows that I am a big fan of Alan Rickman. And I love Colonel Brandon. I thought he was a great character. He was so sweet, so tender, so genuine, so romantic, so gentle. And I was obsessed with him. And that was a big reason I was going, but also because I love Eleanor and I wanted to be her wingman. I wanted to help get her and her mans together. And that one fell off pretty quickly because it really only sounded like a good idea for the duration of time that I was thinking about the film. And I talked about it publicly and then got rid of it like within a couple of weeks and decided I'm not going to go there anymore. Partially because I feel like I would be kind of bored, but also partially because I do love that movie and I don't want to have to stop watching it. Maybe I'll change my mind one day. That one's a maybe, but probably not. The next one on the list for me is my Fame DR. I'm not going to go into super deep detail about the people that were in my Fame DR, but I did have 2 different friend groups in that DR. One of them is YouTubers who are all famous that I watch in this reality. And then the other group is like actors that I became friends with from doing PR work in like Hollywood and stuff. In that DR, I was a very famous social media creator. Definitely leaps and bounds beyond what I'm doing right now, but still essentially the same stuff, and I wasn't making shifting content. But all of my friends were like people that I lived with and made content with, and then eventually I got big enough that I started going to like press events and stuff and ended up meeting a few like famous actors and became friends with them. And the person who was my partner in that DR has actually changed several times. I think in the course of time that I've had a Fame DR, which was over the last, I think like 3 years. Yeah, I've had 3 different Fame DR partners, and I'm not going to say the names of them either because my luck, some of these people would find it, and I'm never going to do that. I'm not brave enough to do that. So I'm not going to say the names of any of the YouTubers I was friends with or any of the actors I was friends with or any of the people I was dating. It became a thing where I just kind of didn't really feel connected to the DR. It was like my DR that was supposed to be like really fun, and the whole point was like living in LA, filming content, and like going to the beach and conventions and concerts and going to like Coachella and shit, like just like the classic YouTuber life. And like it was supposed to be like fun, but also I didn't really have a lot of emotional bond to it. So I decided to not really do that. I might have a different version of this. I think I will at least kind of place the person that ended up being my most recent love interest in that DR into a different DR one day that's somehow not a Fame DR and just includes that person. My hair is pissing me all the way off. But I don't think I would ever bring back specifically this Fame DR. I only have 2 left. I have another one that's an anime. I have My Hero Academia on here. This one I was never emotionally invested in, like at all. I had a My Hero Academia DR because it was something that I saw a lot of people having at the time. I have a friend who has a My Hero Academia DR. My girlfriend, when she mentions if she ever shifted, it would be to My Hero Academia. I know I have a bunch of followers that have My Hero Academia DRs, and it kind of felt like inevitable that I was going to have one, but I never actually felt emotionally invested in the idea of having one. I never really felt excited about it. I never resonated with it, and I never wanted to go to it. So I never bothered to really come up with anything about myself. I bebopped between a couple of different love interests and a couple of different powers. I never settled on a quirk or a partner. The only thing I knew for sure was that I was going to change UA into being a university so that we were all adults. And I don't know, it was never really a thing, and I can't honestly see myself ever getting the DR back. I feel really, really disconnected from it, and I haven't watched the show in years. I will eventually finish the show, but it will be years from now. And honestly, I really feel like it was one of those, because it was like kind of everywhere and everybody was talking about it all the time. It was all over my Instagram, all over my TikTok. People were never marking their spoilers online, so I kept getting spoiled for stuff when I fucking hate when people give me spoilers for shit. And so I kept getting spoiled in like random TikToks on my feed, and it just started, I just like started associating great irritation with the show. So I didn't want to deal with shifting there and being irritated. It doesn't bother me to hear like other people talk about the show like for themselves. Like I said, I have a friend who shifts to My Hero. It doesn't bother me. My girlfriend is like heavily obsessed with My Hero Academia. Doesn't bother me at all. I think my sister still watches the show. Doesn't bother me a bit. But personally, I think it'll be years before I ever finish the show. But I do intend on eventually finishing the show. I just don't really want to have anything to do with it right now. My extent of it is just like either listening to people talk about their stuff with My Hero or doing readings for followers who shift to My Hero, but like I'm not going to be involved in it at all in the next few years. So I highly doubt that there's going to be any me going there. I'm sorry, there's literally a tree in my eye. The last DR that's on this list is Supernatural. I did not know who I was going to be or what I was up to, but I knew that I put myself in a very brief love triangle between Dean and Crowley, and Crowley was the planned endgame in that love triangle. I decided to not go there because I did not feel emotionally resonated there at all, and I wanted to be able to continue to watch the show, but mostly it was just because the idea of shifting to a DR where the whole point is that we're all like hunting monsters didn't really sound or feel fun at all. And for other people that totally works. I have mutuals and followers who shift to Supernatural, but it's just like it doesn't feel like my thing. So I just decided not to. Maybe one day in the future I might change my mind, but oh my god. I'm going through puberty again. I would maybe change my mind, but mostly I think it's a no. And that's all the DRs that I had on my list. If you've heard me mention any of these DRs publicly and you were hoping for really in-depth DR lore drops or story times when I eventually shift there, I'm so sorry. They've gone away now. I do still have a bunch of DRs. Like I said, I know I for sure forgot to list some of my DRs at the very beginning of this, but so there will be like DR lore drops for other DRs and story times for other DRs, but these are not them. If I decide to get any of them back, I'll let you guys know. This turned out so much longer than I thought that it was gonna be, but I'm gonna go ahead and go because I have to go to the bathroom. If you guys are not already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, join the family. It would mean a lot to me. Please make sure that you turn on the post notifications on the little bell next to the subscribe button. I have over 5,000 followers on this channel, and I keep getting comments from people saying they had no idea I was posting regularly and that my videos are not getting put in their subscription boxes and whatever. So make sure you turn the notifications on so that you get alerted every time that I upload every Thursday. And if you would like to watch the Batshit Crazy podcast, you can find that in the description. We're very funny and have a very fun time. And there's also a Discord group for people that enjoy the podcast down there. You have to be 18 or older to join it. So make sure if you're of age and you're interested, you check out that link. Check out my other reality shifting videos in the playlist that's also in the description. If you would like a reality shifting tarot reading, please contact the email in my description and we can get a consultation going. I charge $15 USD a piece per reading and you can get as many as you would like. And while you're down there, please also check out my social media in the description. If you have any shifting related questions, please leave those in the comments. I'm trying to rack up questions to put in a future shifting Q&A. And if you have any videos that you would like to see on this channel, both shifting and non-shifting related, please leave those in the comments and I'll take them into consideration for future video footage. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I love you. Bye.